Hey everybody, welcome to Hear Us Out. I am Patrick.
And I'm Paul. How's it going?
Very good, my friend, because we are talking about not just Civil War, but Civil War and the little train that could, that is A24, the company that produced this movie and distributed it. Most people know who A24 are now, and this is their biggest budget film by quite a margin so far. So we're going to talk about the movie, no major spoilers.
Yep.
If you're really scared about just knowing anything about the movie at all, then maybe not here. But there won't be spoilers, but there will be talk about the movie. We will not spoil anything important to it. And then we're going to talk about, once we've given our impression of the movie, Paul, I think we really have to talk about what this means for A24.
Yeah.
And I can already see Brian in chat saying A24, my guys. That's one of the reasons we want to talk about A24, because Civil War has captured everybody's attention. But A24, they've been capturing a lot of people's attention without a lot of people realizing it for quite a while. So they're an interesting company.
Amazing studio. And not even as as you'll find out, a history that is quite an interesting kind of history for this kind of fledgling kind of studio.
Exactly. Not what everybody expects. So, Paul, we're going to kick into, and we've not had a chance to talk with each other. I think we both know that we're generally positive about Civil War. Let's give a quick synopsis. I'll do a quick synopsis, and then let's talk about the movie real quick and see what we thought. So, anybody who's been under a rock, Civil War, written and directed by Alex Garland, that'll be important in a few minutes, is not set today. It's set in a slightly alternate world, and again, I'm not going to tell you anything that's not in the trailer. Set in a slightly alternate world where there is the second Civil War happening in America. That is essentially the background. The foreground is you're following Kirsten Dunst and a few others. She's a photojournalist, a famous photojournalist who's traveled the world to see civil unrest and actual military action for years and years, and this is the story of her journey from one place to another in what is a modern war-torn America in its second Civil War. And I think that's enough for a synopsis, I think, Paul. What do you reckon?
Yeah. Like that's the thing. It's just following four journalists. So to make it kind of clear, which is Kirsten Dunst is like those war correspondents that you see in war-torn areas, except for she's a photojournalist. So
yeah,
and
that's
always embedded.
That's also important because a lot of people are making noise about why photojournalist, why not videographer, why not all the rest. But I think we can touch on that. Paul, there's something that I'm going to get out of the way real quick. A little surprise for you because I didn't let you know I was adding this in. Just Alex Garland. It's like one of those things. If we were sponsored, I'd be like, okay, hands on the table. We gotta admit if we have bias towards someone. Alex Garland, for those of you that don't know, if you've ever watched their channel, Dread is a big favorite. He wrote it, and by all accounts, even though he isn't officially credited as director, everybody has pretty much said that he took over and directed it when the nominal director kind of flaked out. But I'd also like to say that I haven't been a fan of all of his movies. I haven't even seen Men because I've heard so many bad things. But I still have a lot of faith in the guy. I did not carry that into seeing this movie. Just so everybody knows, I didn't go in predisposed to like this. I just went in with an open mind to see what it was going to be. I think it was probably the same for you, Paul.
Yeah, like he's done a couple of movies that I really enjoy. Obviously, Dread is one of them. 28 Days and stuff like that. He's done those kind of films as well. So, but I didn't bring baggage into this movie at all. So,
and Paul, I'm throwing the map up on screen for your benefit. Quick, for anybody who hasn't heard any of the controversy around this, there's a lot of people that haven't really got it, that this isn't Trump versus Biden. This is not modern day. It's not a full direct allegory to everything that's happening today. This is a proposed possible alternate future in a very different scenario, which is why states like, oh, California and Texas would never be together. Well, it's handled quite well in the film and does actually make sense that it could feckin' happen, since Texas could secede if, I don't know, a president went for a third term or something like that, or there was, if somebody usurped power. These sorts of things could theoretically happen. It's not sci-fi, it's not completely crazy, but it's also not being suggested. as this is an actual likelihood as to how things would shake out. Most importantly, and Paul, the first thing that I want to ask you, do you agree with me that some of the genius of this film is that it, and everybody's saying, oh, it doesn't pick a side. It's not just that it doesn't pick a side, it's that by using a map like this, it does set itself apart from instant reality right now.
Yeah, like I enjoyed that the fact is that you never know what so kind of the middle ground people, the people who are for the traditional kind of America, the United States kind of faction. You never know what Nick Hoffman's like, affiliation is. You don't know if he's right or left leaning kind of thing. Like there may be some hints of other stuff, but like you never also get any of the kind of once again you get no left or right leanings for any of the other factions either in any kind of fashion. It's literally just the Western Front, the Florida Alliance, the People's Army.
Yeah, Northern People's Army or People's Northern Army, whatever it is.
Yeah, and then the United States, which is the kind of loyalist kind of states, kind of thing. But there's no kind of big hints about who and what kind of leanings anybody is.
Yeah,
which is very, very good.
And the one conversation that happens, again, no spoilers, we're not going to give any specifics, but there is a conversation that happens to give you some background on how we got to today in the movie, if you know what I mean. Then there's some talk of some actions that the president was involved in. And if you listen to all of them, you'll see, that could be hinting towards, let's say, Trump, or that could be hinting towards, let's say, Obama. So there is a mix there, but I've noticed with a lot of, as it is the case on the internet, because let's face it, rage gets clicks. We're way too fucking positive, apparently. Us and Chris Stuckman, we shouldn't be positive about things, Paul. I thought if you listen to it all, they've actually given you hints that it's neither, because it could be both. There are references that immediately draw a slight parallel to reality, and some people will hear one of them go, oh, obviously he's Trump. And then if you listen just for 2 more minutes, you go, oh, well, that's not a reference to any Republican president. That's actually a specific reference to a Democratic president. So there is no definite side that this lands on. And that seems to have pissed people off. Why? Because the movie transcends the idea of picking sides. And it's important that it's not about sides. It's about that civil war is not something that anybody wins. Humanity loses in war. There is a victor, but humanity never wins. We should never have to have the war in the first place.
Yeah, like I think it draws this line really, really well, because I don't think, as you say, I don't think it matters how I don't think when you're looking at the results of whatever person has done, I don't think you need to really kind of care about their leanings as it's led to this point in time, to a civil war, where the United States is broken up into several factions, and one of those factions is now direct action onto one of the others, kind of thing. I do think that people's ideas about it is that it didn't go hard enough on either one side, and I think people have a problem with that. But there's no point. It's not a propaganda film for either side. It's a warning, essentially. It's like, I see this film as kind of, there's 2 stories. There's the warning side of the whole story, which is the Civil War parts, which you get in drips and drabs, and then there's the whole journalists story side of things as well. And I've really hated so far is everybody going the journalists are heroes. It's like, no, because Heroes is doing a lot of lifting there. They're the main characters within the story. Yeah. They're not the heroes. The
story itself paints them as not heroes. And again, without spoiling anything, there are 2 very definite storylines, or let's say arcs, mini arcs, that show these people as they're not heroes.
Yeah, and so I just want to put out, if you watch a spoiler review of this show or of this movie, and they go these heroes and stuff like that, immediately take that with a pinch of salt, because there's no heroes in this.
No.
And that's not also a spoiler. It's just that it's just telling stories. There's no King Arthur or like dread or some character who you're meant to latch onto to be like, they're the hero. It's more just it's a character driven story arc with a warning story arc in there as well. Kind of thing. So that's how I watch it.
I
But it's
think
not.
I think just if it's okay with you, Paul, you've opened the door, and I want to push it even wider. I know we shouldn't spend time talking about other critics or other YouTubers or other people's view, but for anybody out there who is seeing now, I've got Offerman and Plemons on screen right now. For people who are like, their big complaint is this isn't the movie I was expecting. I saw a trailer, or I heard, or I was expecting it, and not just on an ideological sense, not just I was expecting this to lean my way politically, or I was expecting it to harshly criticize some part of something or support some idea. That would be one thing. But the general sense that people are like, oh, this is completely not what I was expecting, and therefore it's bad. Just because something's not what you're expecting does not make it bad. There is no correlation between those two things. Something is good or bad on its own merits. What you're expecting cannot be. It can be projected by you onto something, but it is not projected by it onto you. So I think these two, from the trailer, a lot of people are like, Offerman is Trump. And then the Jesse Plemons, let's face it, the Jesse Plemons, let's call it scenes or scene, in the trailer, really sold the film. It became the meme. It's the A24 move. Make sure you've got memeable moments. And he asked, so you're American. What kind are you? What kind of American are you? That, out of context in the trailer, was arresting. It assaulted my senses and immediately made me go, I want to know more about this movie. I want to see this movie. And then, as I've been doing lately, then I wanted to know nothing about the movie until I saw it so I could experience it.
Yeah.
How that turned out in the movie was different than I expected, as in what the scene actually was. But it was unbelievably powerful. It was unbelievably meaningful. And yes, I will admit, like everybody's saying, Jesse Plemons is a scene stealer in that, and he was phenomenal. But that doesn't mean that I came out of it going, and that was the only good thing in the film. Whereas a lot of people were like, I was expecting this thing, and the only thing that I got that I was expecting was the Jesse Plemons bit. To those people, if you hear any reviews like that, please don't take them seriously. They didn't give this movie a chance, and they completely missed the point.
Yeah, a lot of people are complaining that it was sold as an action film, and we got the same material as everybody else.
Yeah.
And I didn't see it as an action film in any way, kind of thing. I was just like, this is going to be an interesting film. It's called Civil War. I don't know what it's about. Obviously, I know that it's a civil war in America, but that's this. I know that eventually I was just like, I know Kirsten Dunst is a photojournalist. Okay, cool. I've got that. I didn't, and then I kind of like, I learned a little bit more about that there's a couple more journalists traveling with her, but I don't know what they're trying to do or anything. So I went in, I actually, like, I don't know, I went and watched this alone. I watched this on my own and stuff like that in the cinema. And like, I think because of that, I was like entirely focused. I was also with, probably because it was very early on in the day, it was like 6 o'clock. I think I was with a lot of like-minded people, because it was just silent all the way through the movie, kind of thing. But yeah, I think there's a lot of I think people are kind of trying to. The two things that are happening with this movie is people are complaining that it didn't go hard enough on either the left or the right, and then people are also complaining that it's not it's not the movie that they wanted. And it's just like, but that's not kind of like, how this works, It's more in the fact is that you get interested in a certain movie and you want to go watch it. But yeah, if you're thinking it's an action film, sorry, if you're thinking it's an action film and you're like, it's not an action film. There's action in it, but it's not. It's a story. It's specifically story based. Like it's a drama or a thriller kind of thing.
Yeah, I'd call it a thriller, to be honest, because I find it incredibly tense. The quick the shorthand I'd give to this is, if you've seen Godzilla -1, if you went into Godzilla -1 and came out disappointed because you were expecting Godzilla versus Kong, that's what I think a lot of people are doing here. They're expecting, instead of the character study and the actual thoughtful movie, they were hoping for the punch knock down buildings. And Paul, when it comes to action and tension, this is one of the most tense movies I have ever seen. The cinema I was in, same as you, I thought the air had actually been sucked out of the room at one point because people had just stopped breathing.
Yeah.
And when action happened, it was appropriate and incredibly hard hitting. And the sound design, if they don't get an Oscar, I'll be very surprised at what comes along. The sound mix in a really good theater absolutely floored me. I'm really looking forward to seeing it again before it leaves decent sized theaters, because I'll never be able to replicate that sound at home. So when there is action and gunshots, you feel the gunshot. It is not a boring. This is not a character study where there's a small French man sitting in the corner smoking a cigarette, talking to the camera for 95 minutes or whatever. This is a film with action, but it's certainly not an action movie.
No, I agree there. Yeah, I see a lot of people kind of in the comments saying similar to The Handmaid's Tale. Yeah, it's a kind of different world kind of thing. Protagonist and hero aren't the same thing, and some people struggle to understand that. Yeah, this is a perfect example. They're not heroes. They're protagonists. They're main characters kind of thing. A24 has always don't give people what they want, and I love that for it. Yeah, this is probably one of the only mistakes that this movie has gotten, is that it may have like, you know, people may have mistaken it for an action film kind of thing, but it's more of a story. I will say that
it's a tense ass action. It's a tense ass story film. Like it's frightening. It's horrifying. There are scenes in this movie that I will never forget, and I mean that. I will never forget some of the images combined with sound that I experienced the first time I saw this movie. Even if I never see it again, there are certain films that when you leave, you know, that's never leaving me.
Yeah, like a lot of people are going like, you know, I'm sorry for talking about other people's kind of reviews. More the fact is that people are just like, oh, this will be forgotten and stuff like that. But this is, to me, I don't like really kind of like compare it, but Full Metal Jacket, the out of the basic training kind of part of that movie, it reminds me a lot of certain scenes and certain things from this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which just makes it more scary about certain lines that are warned about by the journalists within the movie.
Yeah.
I also find it ironic because they're going like the only honest. A lot of people are saying about the problem with the journalists in the film is the fact is that they're the only honest journalists. I don't really see it that way. They are still biased in their own kind of fashion and stuff. But the journalist story is more the fact is that they're trying to claim back essentially that very noble kind of position of you know, journalism, as in stating the facts and having people kind of take them in, which was reminding me a lot about Aaron Sorkin's kind of stuff, which has made me now actually re-watch The Newsroom, which entirely is about essentially reclaiming essentially the news kind of journalism kind of integrity. And I think there's certain elements of that within that journalistic kind of story that they have, but obviously they're human, so there's a lot of faults and stuff like that, which is great in the sense that, you know, it shows a lot for the characters to have those faults. And we're not going to, you know, I'm not going to kind of list them out or anything because you should go watch it and stuff like that. But it's really enjoyable because they portray themselves as the journalistic elite in the sense that they're the noble ones. But everything they say and do completely suggests that they're human, like, you know, kind of thing, that they are still journalists and they're still trying to do the right thing in a journalistic kind of way, but they still have those kind of bleed in things, which is just amazing.
Actually, Paul, because we're going to have to move on to A24 in a minute, so just quickly to talk about the cast. Kirsten Dunst, perfect casting, brilliant job. You know, Jesse Plemons, we already talked, uncredited role. Jesse Plemons was amazing, her real life husband. So both of those people should, you know, wherever they're having dinner tonight, they should be very proud of themselves and each other. But the rest of the cast, Wagner Moura, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing it right. So. As a more, he's a journalist, not a photojournalist. He's going to get, you know, to catch a story. I thought he did a great job showing a couple of different sides of the character that he was given to play. I actually think the actor did a great job. But Kaylee Spaney, hadn't really talked about her until last week when she came up as part of, she's going to be Alien Romulus. And I mentioned, and she's going to be in that Civil War thing that I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to everything this young woman does. Brilliant. Like the main cast, the main four, let's say, that you can kind of see on screen now, just impeccable. I thought they did a great job. I love this movie. I think everybody can tell that I love this movie. Genuinely, I came out going, I'm so glad that that was made. I'm so glad that I've seen it. I'm so looking forward to seeing it again, but maybe not for, I was like, I'm not going to see it for at least a week because I don't think I could take it. Do I think it's perfect? No. Do I think it's full of flaws? Yes. Have I got issues with how they handled some things and what would I change and all that kind of stuff? Is this straight away a top 10 movie for me? Probably not. But it's in a league with some movies where there's so much good from an acting, and it's beautifully shot. It's well conceived. Some of the writing could probably even be better, maybe, which is weird for Alex Garland. It's directed maybe better than it's even written. But it's one of the most impactful movies. I don't want to use the word important because I think that's a weird thing to say about movies, but it's one of the more impactful movies that if you're open to it, it will leave you different than when you went in. Like, I came out emotionally changed, and that sounds big, but it's true.
I just got out of the cinema and I messaged kind of Patrick to do our kind of 5-word review thing. I was walking home on my own, and I had my headset. I had like headphones with me to listen to music or an audiobook, and I just couldn't bring myself to listen to anything. I just had to sit in the feeling that I had after the film, kind of thing, because it was just such a. I think when you watch it, kind of thing, I think it's just like I'll be honest with you. I think the impact for us being not American is probably bigger in the sense of we've got the outside viewer kind of like advantage in the sense of we're looking in and going, this is becoming a problem, kind of thing. This is becoming a mess within that region, and then you watch this movie and you're kind of going, you kind of go, oh, that is like looking into a crystal ball of badness, kind of thing. Because like
darkest timeline stuff, Paul. Darkest timeline.
Yeah, and as I said, because there's no kind of like points of like really kind of showing you either side of the kind of argument, or of the position and stuff like that, you're kind of sitting there going like, oh, either side could be this, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. It's important.
It's a failure of humanity, and just very quickly, Paul, the emotional moments were incredibly emotional, I think. But using photojournalism as the way to tell in a visual medium, everybody, and also history of actual conflict in actual countries. And I can't believe how many people are overlooking this in their complaint. Photojournalism, from Vietnam, from every major conflict. Everybody today is like, oh, look, cameras are even important now because it's all video. Grow up is what I would say to those people, and maybe actually have a look at how the world has been changed by a single image that takes everybody out of which side you're on. Show a black and white image of a young girl running, after being burned in Vietnam, a monk on fire. You choose your point in history. You show a sepia or black and white, take the blue and the red out of it, take everybody's political side, and you start to see humanity and what's happening to humans, not what's happening to sides. And I think photojournalism was a perfect vehicle for that.
Yeah,
absolutely. Go for it.
Yeah, I think you're right in the sense of like, there's no bias in a photo, kind of thing. You're just taking a moment. Everything around us, any journalism or any kind of story or thing, that's where the bias comes from, but the picture itself isn't. So that's where it's brilliant.
And just before we go to the break, Paul, do you want to? Sorry, I'm just going to get one thing in before we go to the break, because we're going to come back and talk A24. But Kirsten Dunst has been around the world seeing this happen in other countries, and there's couple of scenes. One where she admits, she's been away, and to see it in her own home is so scary. But there is also a simple line that covers why people can record something instead of getting involved. And it's about why don't you ask these questions? It's because you'd never stop asking these questions yourself. We record as journalists so other people, as in all of us, ask the questions. And that, I think, sums up why I love Civil War. it's fair to say, Paul, we're giving Civil War 2 thumbs up. It's a must-see, you should see. And genuinely, I would say get to cinema to see it. Get to the best. Don't worry about the image. Now, it's a beautiful film with some of the most beautiful shots. But get to whatever cinema has the best sound system near you. That would be my suggestion.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I just a final before we go through. There's like I always enjoy seeing these pretty much actually like the photojournalist. I love picking a scene, one frame out of the movies, out of certain movies that I absolutely adore and stuff like that. There's so many to choose from in this film.
There really are.
Kind of thing. So I can't wait to kind of, I guess, go back and try pick out a couple that I like, kind of thing. I maybe put them in my collage, kind of thing. So
yes, absolutely. So I think, Paul, it's time to talk about A24. And when we say this was their biggest budget, that doesn't mean it was Disney level budget. It wasn't Paramount level budget. It wasn't anybody level budget. It was a $15 million plus, so $15 million plus. Nobody knows exactly how much has been spent on advertising, etc., etc. But let's just say it's significantly more than they would usually spend. And it had a very good first weekend. Did about 25 million domestic in the US. And I can't get exact numbers on what it did worldwide other than that, but looks like it's around 1 to 2 million. Today, which is almost a week after release, it looks like it's well into the 30s. So will it make all of its money back? Possibly not, but it's actually overall probably going to break even at least and make money. That doesn't sound like a good big business practice, but A24 are a bit more than just a studio that makes one movie in to get one piece of profit out. Now, they have said that they want to move more to that model. They want to buy some IP. They want to start doing... They want a Batman. They want an Iron Man. They want a something. So if you've got an independent comic book label right now and you've got really good stuff, I'd suggest knocking on their door. But really, and I think Brian maybe said it, A24, my guys, they take risks, want creativity, and seem to treat artists well. Yeah, well, here's a couple of numbers for you. They set out with the idea to, and it's basically created by three people, industry people that got together. A24, by the way, do you know where the name comes from? It was a motorway in Italy that one of them was driving along and went, that's a pretty good name for a movie studio. That's it.
That's pretty good.
Isn't that sweet? And it worked pretty well. But their mission statement, so to speak, was they started out as distributors only. And it was to find creative vision and not get in the way, essentially. Let's find filmmakers, let's find storytellers, and let's not interfere with them too well. Let's back people that we believe have a vision, and let's see what happens. Now, that was 2010. So in around 11 and a half years, they've made nearly 160 movies. They'll have released 160 movies very soon. I think it's up to 159. They have, and where's my data sheet? Because it's 55. I want to get this right. 55 Academy Award nominations and 16 wins. For a small distributor that for the first 5 years of their existence wasn't a producer at all. So they only started producing halfway through their existence till now. That's a hell of a thing, Paul.
Yeah, it's an interesting kind of, I guess, evolution of their studio, because I guess it was, but it seems entirely natural from their mission statement, which is to find and distribute, like to find creativity and storytellers, and it just seems like it's a natural progression to be just like, okay, well, we're distributing creative and great stories. Let's go into producing them. And let's go into creating them, because you end up having this problem, I guess, with parties, kind of thing. Because as a distributor, you have no rights. You're just sharing out stuff in certain regions. That's what you're really doing. The second part of that, when they're producing, they have to do it with partners and stuff like that. And obviously, everybody's opinions are very important within that kind of, I guess, mixture of people and ideas and stuff. But it's a natural kind of like, it's a natural evolution to start going, okay, well, let's be the producers and the creators. We're already trying to do that a lot, so let's kind of do that. So that's what I enjoy. And also, one of the other things with that mission statement, it also means that we've gotten so much cool, independent,
Yeah.
original thoughts and stuff like that, which has just been an incredible kind of like, a thing in this world of franchises, which we did a video on.
Well, let's give the people at home a very quick slap in the face with out of 160 movies. Obviously, we're not going to talk about them all, but try this on for size. They bought a few movies. They supported a few movies, picked them up at South by Southwest and some other festivals, but they had their first big hit fairly early on with Spring Breakers, which was, as a lot of people referred to it at the time. So it's a lot of the Disney, young Disney princesses going from Hannah Montana to Miley Cyrus, which is becoming adults or whatever. But Spring Breakers was, it was a vision. I watched that movie and I thought, okay, that's definitely somebody's vision. I don't know if I loved the film, but it was it was okay, I guess. But they did a great job of saying, you know what, we're small, we're a small distributor, we're going to take your movie and we're going to market it in a different way than usual. We're going to be digital first with our marketing. So they're not looking for the sides of buses, they're not looking for billboards as their primary, ad mission statement. They're going other ways. Spring Breakers and James Franco alone gave them, I don't know how many million memes it produced, but let's just say it worked for them. Had an incredible first weekend off a very small budget. And that's it. A24 were off and running. But Paul, then they did things like just supporting people we like. So a little man called Denis Villeneuve. Do you know any of his movies? Have you?
Not lately.
Yeah.
Not, he hasn't. I think he did we're gonna make this joke
Sandcastles?
that we always. Huh?
Sand Castles or something like that it's called.
Yeah, like some kind of small ass movie, kind of independent, I believe it was. No one really saw it.
No, they've just been incredible at supporting established directors, but also Enemy was Denis Villeneuve's first. That was his crossover English language movie. He's done Arrival in June and things like that since. Alex Garland, the guy we talked about a little while ago, a little movie called Ex Machina, which most people have heard of by now. Room, that was a pretty good year for them. That netted Brie Larson an Oscar, her first Oscar for Best Actress, and that's them just saying, okay, well, we're going to support people. We're gonna really back and believe what we're doing. And then when they got to make their own, Moonlight, which won the Oscar for Best Movie, and it was the first completely, it was made and produced by people of color the whole way through. That was one of their things that they were happy to say, okay, you can go. It was Barry Jenkins, wasn't it, that made Moonlight? I can't remember. Who's the director? Oh, I should have that off the top of my tongue. But fair play. That's a movie that really put them on the map, saying, okay, our first out of the gate as a production company and a distributor, we're winning Oscars. They nearly didn't win an Oscar thanks to Warren Beatty and whoever else was presenting that year.
Ooh.
Yes, sorry. It's a tough one. I can't remember. Was it Faye Dunaway, I think, was up there with him? That was one of the most awful moments, other than one very...
Was she? I think she moved as far away as she could, Barry Jenkins is the director.
Yes, it was Barry Jenkins. Thank you. And then you've got other big breaks. Lady Bird, Greta Gerwig. What's Greta Gerwig done in the last year that might have maybe also been famous?
Some Toy Story.
Wasn't Transformers. I think it was the other one. Yeah, exactly. Barbie fame. 8th Grade. Brilliant movie that everybody should go and see. Bo Burnham.
Yeah.
And then the
Swiss Army Man.
Yes, not the Davids. What the hell are they called? The two guys. They refer to them as. I'm drawing a blank on the two guys. They go by their first name. The Daniels, not the Davids. Sorry, thank you. My brain had a fart there.
I was kind of confused because
it's Daniel Kwan and Daniel, the one that I can't pronounce so well. They did Swiss Army Man. Then they did the other most successful movie so far for A24. One of my favorite movies of all time. As you know, I lost my biscuits over it altogether the first night I saw it. Everything Everywhere All at Once, which ended up being a big sleeper hit for A24.
Like, I'm always stunned. I'm always stunned about the A24, just with their kind of like, you know, creativity and hits and stuff like that. The interesting thing is, I think a lot of people have been saying this, and I like, you know, and I like to be in good company, like James Gunn and stuff like that. They've been saying the fact is that the middle budget movie has disappeared, and
Yep.
that's actually where some of our best stuff came from. It wasn't that expensive to make. It need like, you know, a studio needed to fill some kind of holes with programming and stuff like that. So you had this kind of great middle movie, kind of lower, like middle budget kind of movies that were made. I really think that A24 has really kind of stolen that ground in a lot of ways, and it's really producing the hell out of it, and kind of really kind of going, yeah, the middle budget movies are not gone, they're not dead. This is what they can do, kind of thing. So,
And they're giving other people belief, like Neon, who are another A24 up and comer, to do the same sort of thing. There's going to be a few more fish, a small fish trying to become big fish, like A24, and I think that's the best thing in the world for movies.
well, like it means that we have more storytellers, more kind of like, because the whole thing is that we've had this whole like I guess the reemergence of the studio system, which like back in like the start of Hollywood, when we only have 5 studios ever making anything,
Yeah.
and we kind of had, and I think that's where we kind of grew out of. That got broken apart, and you know, and then we started having more studios to making more and more stuff, kind of thing. And then it seems like we've gone back into that. We've gone back into those kind of big name studios, as in some small ones became bigger ones and 8 smaller ones. And we're going to use the big fish, little fish kind of analogy. But that middle fish thing disappeared completely.
Yeah.
The middle fish became big fish. The small fish got eaten by, you know, kind of thing. A24 is definitely taking that ground and really kind of opening it up a little bit more. It means that we don't get franchises as much. We get them broken up and stuff like that. It also means that like big studios are now thinking, I definitely am fairly sure that like A24 and its run of movies and stuff like that really pushed DC to push the Joker movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kind of thing. As in, it's just like, this is an experiment. It's not really in the lines of what we usually do and stuff like that. Let's kind of like do it because it'll be fun and interesting and it's a good story and stuff. And you're just like, that's all it needs to be. If you're sitting there going like, I would watch this, then you should make it. You
Yeah.
know, kind of thing. Because like, you're not a unique person. You're not the only person in the world who's going to look at like, you know, everything everywhere all at once and go like, you know, I like that film, but no one else is ever going to like it because I'm so unique, kind of thing. Whereas like,
If you're listening to my voice right now and you feel like a weirdo, it's okay, because I'm a weirdo too. So let's be weirdos together, you know? That's why, like, you're right. Everything will find its audience because we're all out there. And Paul, I will say one cautionary thing I will say about A24. I'm not an Apple person. Like, I don't have a load of Apple products and all the rest of that kind of stuff. And some of the Apple hype and the Apple fanboy and the Apple culture puts me off. I like a lot of their products. I think they're quite good. I enjoy a lot of their productions on Apple TV, etc. A24 has a small bit of that. That there are like A24 is their own merch line, and A24 like it's like an A24 movie. Whereas that's not really a thing, except it kind of is a thing, but it's not really a thing. And it's become like Joker is an A24 style movie in some ways. They've become a synonym for that's surprisingly good, or, you know, that was worthwhile, or I'm glad somebody took the chance and did it. Whatever you happen to be talking about, A24 can fit into a lot of really positive, with really great connotations as to, oh, it's got an A24 feel to it, or a vibe to it, or whatever. And they don't, and that's where somebody already called it out in the comments. Brian, I think you were like, yeah, and they support horror. We're going to have to bring that up in a second, because A24 don't necessarily do franchises in the MCU style, but they do franchises in they will pick a visionary director, writer, creator, whatever it is, and we will support them more than once. Like Robert Eggers with The Witch, Lighthouse, Northman, like there's okay, and this is our transition into horror because, Paul, I'm hoping you can talk about it when we come to the horror stuff since you're our bona fide horror guy. But they'll pick people and say, hey, you've got your own voice. You fit our mission statement. We're not necessarily making millions from you, but it's helping keep the A24 brand what it should be, which is that synonym for, God, I'm really glad somebody made that.
Yeah, like their horror kind of pedigree that they're kind of doing is really nice because they're not building in, as you said, they're not going for franchising in the sense of they're not looking for like a Jason or like a Michael Myers or anything like that. They're just looking for kind of the fact is that if you do it twice, it's not going to be as scary as the first time. Alien has definitely shown that kind of respect, as in you need to change. Aliens kind of thing, and plenty of other kind of movies that started off in the horror genre have transcended into other kind of things. A24 knows that, and they kind of go, okay, like I know they're taking a big lick into the, I don't know why I said lick, that sounds really creepy.
Jump.
A big jump into X Perland Maxine kind of thing.
Yeah, it got mentioned in the comments, and I got to say, we have to preload these images, so it's simple proof. We were going to be talking about that in a second, Brian. We would never forget. Well, we know you're an Eggers fan. I already knew that. So there's a comment here. I love all the movies on screen. I think you love two of the movies that are on screen right now, and you're pretty hopeful for the third, which is their next one up, Maxine. That's the Tai West trilogy.
So yeah, like it's just that's the kind of sorry, just so that the stream died for someone, but I don't think it has.
No, I think we're okay.
But yeah, no. So yeah, their mentality for horror films is the fact is that we're going to do one and done. They might do this. They're doing this trilogy as a kind of experiment, I guess, and it's also they're very individual, kind of like they're within the same kind of, I guess, pretense or like kind of.
And Mia Goth is a pretty kind of connecting bit of on-screen, connecting tissue as an on-screen person. But yeah, it's again, they're backing Tai West. They're not just backing this as like Iron Man. 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, like they're not. But they're also doing. It's the fact is that I think that they won't go further than 3. They like I don't think they'll ever go to like Halloween. What is this? Halloween 9 or something like that kind of thing, or
H2O,
that kind of way.
H2O for the 2020 remake of the 20th anniversary of H2O.
That's so they're not really doing that. I think they're trying to. I think they kind of got a story and they were just like, this is too big, we need to make it into 3 films, but we need to make sure that that's necessary, kind of thing, which is one of the big questions that you always need to ask in that sense. But I think the big thing that they've done with horror is that they've gotten a style of a horror movie, and then they've chosen the director that has, like, they've chosen a horror story that seems really interesting, and then chosen a director that will fit the style of the story. And then the other thing is they're not afraid of horror.
No.
The fact is that like half of their, like, The Witch is 18s. It's R-rated, but like it's in it is like, and it's R-rated for several scenes, not for the whole thing. It's not like some Hostel or Soul gore fest.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why it's an R-rated film. It's an R-rated film because it scares the crap out of you.
Because it's unsettling as all balls, yeah.
Yeah, like, and I love the fact that they're not afraid to push that envelope kind of thing towards it. Because a lot of horror movies now are kind of like, well, we want to be we want to get the teen kind of group so that they can watch it. And I'm gonna really show my age. Watch it when, like, they're all doing their sleepover, or kind of like, they're all getting together kind of thing,
Sleepovers still happen. Please, the youth out there, please do sleepovers. Tell me you're not doing Zoom call sleepovers all the time now. Oh God, I really hope that calling around to a friend's house, and I don't know if you're lucky enough to have a back garden, getting out there and being in a tent until you get cold, and then come in and go, actually, will we just watch bad movies on VHS? Streaming now. Streaming. I get it. I know. I'm old.
Yeah, like like I get that, but it's the kind, like, a lot of horror films now are trying to claim that kind of like 16, 16-year-olds demographics that are still able to see the film.
Yeah,
it's still kind of scary, not really. But A24 is liking to push it to the R rating so that it can actually be scary, kind of thing.
Well, I think Ari Aster backs that up. Now, I haven't included Beau is Afraid specifically because they've given Ari Aster 3 films as well, as they did with Robert Eggers. They have Hereditary, which was a critical and I think it was a financial success. Midsommar, which was an incredibly well received movie and you know grew legs all of its own. It became famous in and of its own right, and they're again alternately challenging horror movies because they're like you say, they're not the 12 PG 15 rated or 16 rated depending on the rating in your particular country right now. They're not just the the schlock horror that people were trying to pump out direct to TV years ago. They're actually giving people with vision. And Ari Aster proved that, okay, Beau is Afraid may have been a step too far. And he may have had too much creative control and too much more budget than sense or restraint. And it went wrong. But still, supporting horror, nobody out there could say that A24 do one thing. They support horror. They support sci-fi. A lot of people don't realize how much of their catalog Ex Machina doesn't feel like sci-fi until you realize, oh, this is definitely sci-fi.
Yeah.
So a lot of their sci-fi is more grounded than, let's say, space-based is maybe the right way to put it. And a lot of their horror is more psychological than gore.
Yeah. Yeah, like they've definitely kind of taken that group. They've definitely decided just to spread the wealth, as it were, across the kind of across a lot of the items. I can see there that Spectre Vision's trying to do the same thing. I definitely think A24 is really good at kind of leaning the grind, or kind of like leading the charge in the sense of having that middle ground, middle budget movie. Because the thing is, once you see one studio succeeding in that area, you're going to have a lot of people going like, well, we can do that. We can do that middle budget kind of thing and just be creative instead of like, I was trying to say, what was the film? I was thinking that the lower budget, Alien. I don't know why I'm sorry. The Alien Romulus thing, we were saying that the lower budget is probably going to help us.
Yeah.
I see a lot of these films in the sense is because it had a lower budget that they had to get creative, kind of thing. And that's what's really helped us. It's really, really helped the fact that, they're doing lower budget things, so they have to get creative in the story and creative in the way that they're doing things, which has been phenomenal. But once one studio does it, the bigger studios are going to take note and be just like, maybe we should invest in some of the other ones as well, because I think A24 is going to get bigger enough that I don't think it's going to need as much help from bigger studios. But they're going to see, like, as you said, the Spectre Vision and Neon and stuff like that the bigger like Paramount and stuff are going to be like, we want to get in on this.
Yeah,
we can give them money and produce and help kind of thing, but like it's going to start happening that they're going to start investing in these companies to kind of reclaim the middle ground.
Yeah,
a lot more, which is fantastic.
Paul, I quite literally threw up just Uncut Gems and The Whale to kind of cover that idea that it's not, because Everything Everywhere All at Once may be my poster child for A24. For Brian in the chat, it's probably X or Pearl, or maybe actually no, it's probably one of the Robert Eggers ones. Apology, I don't know. For you, Paul, I don't know what's the first thing that comes to your mind. Maybe it's Moonlight for A24, but there's so many to choose from. They do everything, and they're not all great. They've buried. Do you think all 160 movies are great? They've buried a bunch of crap that they supported, that they bought. Then they realized, this isn't actually amazing. But they've created pathways to dump these things out on streaming. Sometimes they've done it to some movies that people complain about. The Under the Silver Lake with Andrew Garfield.
Mm-hmm.
I know that a lot of people are still mad that A24 kind of half buried that movie because they didn't know how to market it or didn't think they could. Still, more wins than misses. And even if it's only getting something that wouldn't otherwise get picked up at all, getting it out there where we can find it and share it with each other and make it a cult hit or a cult classic. A24 deserve to be thanked for that. Paul, I have one final surprise, though. A24, not only do they make hoodies and movies and all the rest of that good stuff, they make award-winning documentaries, and they're involved in a ton of TV. that you don't realize is actually backed by A24.
I'm excited about this.
Well, you've for the documentary
Oh,
side, I'm going with, obviously I think they won some awards for their Amy Winehouse one, which ironically right now, or coincidentally right now, there's the Back to Black Amy Winehouse movie of her life with somebody playing her. Supersonic, the Oasis movie. I put that in specifically because I remember seeing that with one of our commenters. And not back then, that was before A24 were the A24 of today. It's a good few years ago. But things like Euphoria, which I haven't watched, Beef, which I haven't watched yet, these are huge, successful TV and streaming series. And A24 are, okay, Euphoria, everybody just thinks of it as HBO, but it's actually A24. Beef, everybody thinks Netflix. It's actually A24. So A24 are out there. They're part of the system now. They're no longer the scrappy underdogs that just believe in people with vision. They're a serious business. And Civil War, with a serious budget, has had a serious impact. And I'm kind of excited to see what happens next.
Well, like I'm looking at kind of I was looking at the list of kind of movies that have hit the Oscars this year. So for best movie and stuff like that, like Past Lives and Zone of Interest and stuff like that, kind of thing. A lot of them are also in some way connected to A24. So a lot of the movies that you've seen in the Oscars have A24 either helping produce or made them and stuff like that. And it's kind of like interesting that this little company has but has led itself into kind of like, big name movies that are now being noticed by like Oscars and the, Emmys and, kind of thing, like the Golden Globes and everything. Like this small studio, and I'm saying small in a very respectful way because obviously they're not that small, but they are leading a charge into like award winning, as you said, 55 movies or 55 nominations, 16 wins, kind of thing, and they're just showing like I think the biggest win for them is that they came in such a good point when we have gotten so fatigued by the superhero movies and stuff like that, especially since they're starting to kind of falter in the quality and stuff like that. They spread over. They've now gone into the nostalgia squeeze that we like to call about, which is they're trying to milk like your and my kind of like nostalgia views on like Ghostbusters and a couple of other kind of franchises and movie kind of that we adore. That we were getting fatigued. We were getting fatigued about sequels and remakes and soft boots and franchise entries and all this kind of thing. And then here comes A24, where there's like, here's a new look on this. It's similar. Like the thing is that like Civil War can be attributed to so many other movies. As I said, Full Metal Jacket, which goes Apocalypse Now, a few other kind of like films that are very similar to it, but it's just set in a different locations. So it's not doing something brand new, but it's not doing something that we've seen 20,000 times so far, kind of thing, or it's on an entry within a franchise kind of thing. They're really kind of like going like, here's a mix of loads of really things that you're really interested in that you haven't been able to see in a while, kind of thing, because the franchiseness of everything has just been so toxic, I guess, in some ways,
and they're giving us what we all we all say that we want, and now we got to put our money behind it, which is we want people to tell stories they're passionate about, and then we can all go out and support them. Thanks to people like A24 and Spectrovision and Neon and others, we're getting that chance. So what makes something like, I promised we wouldn't go long tonight, so we're going to have to head to wrap up. A24, they wouldn't have picked Alex Garland if they were just trying to make money, because he hasn't got a long history of making huge money. It's a filmmaker. They're making the film for the right reason. 55 Academy Award nominations, 16 films, or 16 wins. They're doing something right. They're making money out of merch. I'm okay with that. I don't mind if they have a subculture that's keeping them afloat too. Whatever works. They support visionary filmmakers. It's great. The key thing that I think makes A24 special is with them, you get a chance to see something that bigger studios wouldn't maybe necessarily take a chance on. But the real bonus for me with A24 is they're showing all of the bigger studios, and Joker is a great example. You can actually keep your artistic credentials and your financial credentials in the same wallet. You can actually have things work both ways. You just have to show a bit of confidence, a little bit of care for the art. A24 is not just a little studio doing Oscar bait movies anymore. I think they're letting everybody know that it's about filmmaking and storytelling, and that art and finance can exist. It's not art for finance. It's that you can actually believe in art and you can still make money, as opposed to, will I make money off this piece of art? It's not. They've turned it the right way around, and I think they've shown all of the big studios, as A24 gets bigger and has successes like Civil War. Yeah, this is how we can all do it again. We can go back to not just chasing $1 billion or else it's a failure. We can support. People will support pieces of art, and they don't have to have hugely wide appeal because they don't have to have huge budgets for everything. Big budgets are needed for some things. Big budgets, like you already said, are not needed and can actually be a handicap for some other things.
Yeah. Like I think if you look at the kind of business side of it, I think you can definitely see the bang for your buck kind of thing coming out, which is like, A24 is definitely putting smaller amounts of money into it, not smaller and smaller, but like as in it's putting smaller amounts of money into it than some of the bigger studios, but getting so many good returns in the sense.
Yeah.
It's getting such goodwill about new IPs, new kind of stories and everything like that, that the bigger places are going to have to start looking at that and kind of going, yeah, we're spending like 250 million on a film. Like, yeah, it gets us $1 billion, kind of thing. But that's the fact. The fact is that like we then have like this. The fact is that when we start making kind of like the bad ones, like they hit hard.
They take a
because
bigger
you've decided
bite.
to put two. Yeah, because you're just like, oh, we made a $250 million film, but man, we did not make half that back, which is bad. Like if you spread the losses of like A24 over its films, it probably wouldn't account to like it probably wouldn't account to a few of the Marvel films that have lost money.
It's true.
Kind of thing.
I'm sure Madam Web alone has taken more of a bang than half of A24's slate this year. So, Paul, in summation, because we got to wrap up in the next 30 seconds or so, I think we both can give 2 thumbs up to Civil War with a firm recommendation to see it in a cinema if you can, but go in with an open mind. Civil War, good. A24, I don't want to say I'm a fan because that sounds weird, but I think I'm a fan, Paul.
Yeah. Like, I think so.
I respect
A24,
what they're doing.
I definitely think. I think I'm a fan of their work. I think that's probably one of the best ways. I'm going to buy one of their damn merchant things and just wear it on this.
Yeah.
But to ask you a question, was 24's biggest gamble worth it? Was Civil War in the eyes of, to answer the question?
Undoubtedly. Not only was it worth it for them, but it was worth it for everybody else. I think they deserve the success they had because I think they've done a service. Everybody involved with that movie has done a service for the entire movie industry.
Yeah. I think even if it's a financial fail, which I don't think it will, I think it'll probably break even or make a little money thing. I think it was definitely worth the gamble for them to make this level of budgetary film for them.
So well done, A24, well done, Civil War. And on that positive note, I've been Patrick.
And I've been Paul.
And we've been Hearside, and we will see you next time.
Like, subscribe, ring that notification bell. Bye.
All the good things. Bye.